Hello, I'm Brian Smith and welcome to my office. My seminars are about the evolution of the life sciences industry, pharma, medtech and related sectors, and its strategies and its business models. So if this is what interests you, then please like and subscribe, but most of all, please share this seminar with a friend or a colleague who shares your interest. If you'd like to know more about my research in this area, about my 8 books and 300 other publications, then there's a link in the notes below to contact me. And if you'd like the set of 4 articles about capability development that these seminars are based on, then please stick around to the end of the seminar and I'll tell you how to get them. This is the 4th in a series of 4 seminars about capability development in pharma and medtech. The series is built on the uncontentious premise that a firm's success depends on what it is capable of doing better than its rivals. Because of this, effective executives focus on understanding, selecting, building and maintaining their firm's capabilities. In the first seminar, I described how strong capabilities arise from processes that are made up of organizational routines, which are built on micro-foundations of individuals' attributes, team processes and connectivity and conflict management methods. In this second seminar, I described the different kinds of capabilities, hygiene, differentiating and dynamic, and how different life sciences business models require different capabilities. In practice, this means that, especially in changing markets, firms can't rely on benchmarking capabilities against their competitors. They have to build their own set of capabilities, their capabilium as it's known, that is right for their chosen business model. Then, in the 3rd article in this series, I shared my research into how firms build their capabiliums from the bottom up by identifying weaknesses and carefully engineering their micro-foundations to enable their organizational routines and express the capabilities that they need. The first 3 seminars aim to help firms become more capable than their competitors, but they don't address the challenge of staying more capable than strong competitors in a market that is changing. Meeting that continuing challenge is what this 4th and final seminar in the series is all about. Sometimes, but relatively rarely, staying more capable than rivals means a change of business model. If this is true for your firm, then take a look at the first 3 seminars in the series. But if you face the much more common challenge of staying ahead of ever-improving competitors with a similar business model to yours, then you face a different sort of challenge. In these circumstances, I found that effective firms had given up on benchmarking against others. As one of my research respondents told me, benchmarking helps you catch up, but it doesn't help you stay ahead. Instead, leading firms compare themselves to the best possible capabilities for their business model. That same respondent phrased this approach as, you have to compare yourself to the best you could be, not the best that currently exists. I call this an acme comparison, comparing yourself to the ideal. It's a great idea, but it raises some questions about how to do it in practice. In my research, I drilled down into the idea as it applies to commercial functions of life science companies. And I found 4 acme comparators that commercial leaders use to help them stay more capable than their rivals. All commercial competitiveness begins with understanding the market better than anyone else. So leading firms compare themselves to the acme of market understanding. For instance, I heard questions like, what do we know about the market that no one else does? And what do we see happening in the market that we can't fully explain? By asking these sorts of questions, commercial leaders weren't comparing themselves to their competitors, they were contrasting their business intelligence and analysis capabilities to the theoretical maximum. Often the answers they found giving themselves were chastening. Often the answers to these questions were chastening. If, for example, everything you know about your market is already known by everybody else, it's a sign that you are a long way behind your acme comparator. Equally, if there's a lot you can't explain about the market, that's also a sign that you are a long way from being the best that you could be. I found that leading firms use the gap between where they are and the acme comparator to drive the improvement of their business intelligence and related functions. First, they identified critical gaps in their market understanding. For example, why does prescriber preference vary between prescribers with similar characteristics? They then identified weaknesses in organisation routines that cause those knowledge gaps. For example, their organisation routines for characterising prescribers' non-rational motivations. Then they fixed the micro-foundations that weakened those routines. For example, they improved their skills in executing and interpreting qualitative market research. This practical and very directed approach to capability development is only made possible by an ACME comparison. It couldn't be done by competitor benchmarking. The second ACME comparison I saw in my research was in deciding where to focus effort. In this case, I heard questions like, how differentiated is our focus? And how do we know that our focus is the best focus? If, when answering these questions, commercial leaders found that they were making more or less the same value proposition to more or less the same people, then this provided an important ACME comparison. In this area, I found firms identifying weaknesses in their segmentation, targeting and positioning capabilities. Those weaknesses were often explained by weak routines for designing extended beyond the product value propositions. And fixing those routines usually involved addressing micro-foundations for conflict management between marketing, market access and medical affairs who were all involved in that task. Again, these leading firms' ability to improve their capabilities was based on a comparison to the ACME of strategic decision making, not a comparison to how their competitors did it. I also researched how firms improve their capabilities to translate strategic decisions into action. I heard questions like, what's the difference between what we said we'd do and what we actually did? And the answer to that question was often, there's a much bigger difference than we like to admit. This ACME comparison revealed an opportunity to improve capabilities in strategy implementation. In one typical case, the implementation issue was addressed by changing the organisational routines for communicating the strategy and designing its metrics. And to make those routines work better, the firms restructured micro-foundations such as team membership and reporting lines. This was another example of using an ACME comparator to drive capability development. The fourth ACME comparator that I saw in leading firms was in the area of maintaining organisational learning capabilities. These are not the same as market understanding capabilities. Organisational learning is about how firms learn from their experience. When I listened to leaders here, I heard questions like, after we've implemented, what will we know that we don't know now? And what assumptions are we making and how will we know if they were good ones? Often, even the best firms couldn't answer these questions well, which meant that there was a lot of room to improve their organisational learning capabilities. Firms use these missing answers to initiate new organisational learning routines, in particular the ones for setting if-then assumption tests. For example, if this segment doesn't prefer us, then we will know that our assumption that contraindications drive prescribing behaviour were wrong. Of course, to do this, they needed to develop some new micro-foundations, such as the skills for deductive reasoning. And just like the three other ACME comparators I've already mentioned, it was the ACME comparison that made the capability development possible. The British have an idiom, painting the fourth bridge. That means any task that is necessary but never ending. In the companies I studied, staying ahead in a changing competitive life sciences market is very much like painting the fourth bridge. Whatever capabilities a firm has that give it superior competitiveness very quickly become visible to its rivals, who then rush to imitate them. And since imitating is always easier than innovating, it is easy for imitators to catch up. The only way to sustain a leadership position is to pay constant attention to capability development. But the challenge for leaders is that they lack a pace setter or a benchmark to compare themselves with. And what I found was that firms worked around this problem by replacing competitors with ACME comparisons. They didn't ask themselves what capabilities their competitors already had, they asked themselves what capabilities were possible. This helped those firms to identify not just what capabilities they needed to improve, but also how to improve them. Their questions revealed capability gaps. The capability gaps revealed weak routines. The weak routines showed where micro foundations had to be improved. Building up from those improved micro foundations, the best firms I interviewed followed a path of constant capability improvement. They were, in the words of Claude Levi-Strauss, just like the best scientists. They didn't have the right answers, but they asked the right questions. Thanks for your interest in my work. If you'd like the set of 4 articles about capability development on which this is based, then mail me and I'll gladly send them to you. Or if you'd like to know more, then let's just set up a virtual cup of tea. And please share this seminar with your colleagues either directly or by LinkedIn.